All right, so let's get started. Welcome to Cyber Talk, a thought leadership initiative from Seqrite. This afternoon's edition of Cyber Talk will dwell on the topic: is API security on your radar? My name is Bijo George, and I oversee global marketing, and I will be your host for this afternoon. This afternoon's webinar is designed to be a very interactive session. So we encourage all of you to raise your queries and questions that you may have in the chat window. All answers to your queries will be provided verbally during the Q&A session. This event will also be available on demand after the webinar concludes. You will receive an email notification once it is available for viewing on demand. Before we get in the official agenda, I wanted to make some quick housekeeping announcements. I request all of you to switch off your mobiles. Unmute yourself in case you have to ask any questions. Please place yourself on mute thereafter. Like I mentioned earlier, we have provided for a Q&A session, so please feel free to raise your questions in the chat window as well, and I'll be happy to pass them on to the subject matter experts. Now let's move on to the official agenda, the reason why all of us have come together. It's a very interesting topic, and we have some fantastic speakers lined up. So let me just sort of get to the context, right? Before I hand over to the designated speakers, I want to highlight a few points and place a few things in perspective, right? On last count, programmable web, I'm sure all of you have gone to programmable web for various reasons to look for data and so on and so forth, has listed 22,000 APIs as the number that the ecosystem held until June of 2019. But what's more even interesting is this entire API economy thriving. I'm sure all of you have gone through these data points. It's available in public domain. But I just wanted to sort of hit on that to place things in perspective. Salesforce, for example, has 50% of its revenues driven through API. Expedia likewise at 90%, and eBay 60%. But this is not a conclusive list. I'm sure there are a whole host of companies that actually thrive on the API economy. So for any enterprise in today's context to not have an API is akin to a world without an internet. So I think that places the importance on what API does for an enterprise. But with such a robust and thriving API economy, it is but natural that this is an area of focus. It's an area of interest for attackers. And this afternoon's session is tailor-made to address that very critical issue. And we have two very talented cybersecurity leaders who are going to walk us through, who are going to talk to us and tell us the steps we can take to secure this landscape. Our first speaker for this afternoon is Mr. Kuldeep Rana, who heads the global sales for the enterprise sales group at Seqrite. Prior to a stint with Seqrite, Kuldeep also held leadership positions at Symantec, companies like Sophos, McAfee, Cisco, Gigamon, to name a few. Kuldeep is a seasoned cybersecurity professional with over 2 decades of experience working across the APJC, Middle East, and Africa markets. Our second speaker is Israel Gross, who joins us all the way from beautiful Tel Aviv. Welcome, Israel. Welcome to this webinar in India. Israel is the co-founder and head of business development at L7 Defense. And that's not all, because there's more to Israel. He has been labeled a serial entrepreneur, given his interest in several innovative tech startups, and cybersecurity seems to be his topic of interest and passion. And this passion has actually led him to also produce a show. It's a high-tech show held in Israel. It's called Kikar High Tech. And it grosses over 30,000 viewers week on week And that goes to show the interest and the passion with which he kind of connects with audiences. In addition to this, Israel is also the founder of the Israel Cyber Group, a leading cyber forum in Israel. That said, let me now invite our first speaker, Mr. Kuldeep Raina, to kickstart the proceedings. So over to you, Kuldeep. Take it from here.
Thank you. Just a sound check. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes, Kuldeep, loud and clear.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon to everyone. And thank you everyone for being with us, and thank you for your time, spending your time, valuable time with us for this session. On the top of my agenda, I'm going to bring out a couple of areas, and I would like to emphasize few of the new technical advancements in the cybersecurity space, which actually needs big attention. And also, I'm going to talk about that how conventionally and what is the paradigm shift that cybersecurity is going through in order from the infrastructure security to an application security. So overall, couple of points. All of us know that most of the cyber criminals are using primarily two important vectors in order to basically make an attempt to create a breach. And more importantly is that it's the time to analyze the evolving IT threat landscape. And today I'm going to talk about that how Seqrite can help those organizations to deal with these emerging threats. As I primarily said, that there are two vectors that most of these cyber criminals are leveraging from an attack perspective. And if we look at that, the most of the demographics of those attacks that has happened, the web is the most common vector that they are using. Now, all kind of in sophistication that they bring in their attacks. So web was a predominant vector when they actually try to basically leverage it and bring in more sophistication in their attack patterns. For example, someone gets an email, and saying that he gets an email from his boss saying that today is the last day. So someone gets an email from his boss, and when the subject matter of the email is that today is the last day. It's a highly tempting email, which actually tempts everyone to click on it. The moment you click on it, if there's a URL which redirects him on the site and the systems are compromised. So look at the cyber criminal mentality here. They're using email as the most tempting attempt to tempt people to click onto the URLs and they get to the compromise, right? And now the same level of web extension is moving towards the API. We at Seqrite, have a big heritage of almost around 25 years of hardcore engineering, cybersecurity engineering, and the security labs, right, which actually are working day and night in order to make a real-time detection and threat intelligence, right, in order to create a defending strategy, in helping the organizations to create the defending strategy in order to protect their more critical assets of their infrastructure. So today, when we look at the Seqrite, so Seqrite actually brings in two modern innovations, right? The first innovation they bring in onto the infrastructure side, where we try to basically bring a next generation from endpoint security, network security. And the second journey that we are trying to basically bring in onto the application security side of it. So nevertheless, just to give you an idea, it's almost around 35,000 customers around the world, who are actually trusting our real-time detection and threat intelligence. And these 35,000 customers globally are present, and they come from all levels of verticals, some from retail, some from healthcare, some from banking, some from manufacturing, automobiles. So our day in out, one of the most important areas that we are actually day in out, they are working is how to bring in more and more threat research and bring and power our products with a lot of threat intelligence to enable those organizations so that we can protect their most critical assets and protect our customers from the most targeted and sophisticated attacks. Can I have the next slide, please? Now, these products today, it's not only that, what we're trying to do, but the testimony of these, the credentials of these products are our patents that we are getting registered. And when we looked at the most of the targeted attacks, like, when people were actually putting up a blame game between network ops and security ops, people were actually getting confused whether the threat landscapes comes from the network side or whether the threat landscapes comes from the endpoint side. And that is where we were actually trying to build in some of the hardcore patents that can actually uh, be used to solve the most critical compelling problems of the customers, right? For example, anti-ransomware, for example, understanding the behavioral detection systems. And today, when it looks like, the quality of the products is not what we go and we claim, but if you look at our text performances, right, the AV test, the ICSA labs, the DSA Excellence Awards talks a lot about the products and the patents that we have bought in order to bring simplicity and more security norms into our products. Next slide, please. So today, when I look at that, most of the people are actually trying to transform the cybersecurity, from an old traditional way to a new modernized way. That means when people are trying to figure it out, that how basically a signature-less technologies can be adapted and brought it down to basically solve the most of the customer problems, or to maybe to bring in the high hardcore defending strategy towards the protecting the most important and critical assets. One of the most important innovative malware engines that we have been able to talk about is that we already have, almost around 6 important components, right, which are highly modernized in nature, and they actually give a uniqueness in terms of creating a security posture for our products. Now, for example, DNA scan, starting from a boot time scan, which have the capability of identifying and fixing the critical system files, to the behavioral detection, where we monitor and track each and activity done by the program, and in case if it's of a malicious nature, and we try to block it. And we also, other than try to basically look at the nature of the attacks, the nature of the threats, that where they are originating from, and this is all powered by an artificial intelligence, which is basically defined in such a way so that we can basically analyze those malware threats, and we can co-couple those threats with most of the keylogger events, and we have an ability to block it to bring the complete security around it. So overall, this is the area that I was talking about was on terms of the conventional security, which we are trying to bring in a lot of threat intelligence to power our products, which are capable enough to protect you against any kind of a modernized attacks, right? So that is the one face of the coin, where we basically are looking from an infrastructure perspective, that how do we create the most modernized solution which can protect against the highly sophisticated and targeted attacks from the infrastructure perspective. Now, when I was mentioning about the two important elements, right, which was coming down email and web as the vector, which are basically a big claims to where the cyber criminals are leveraging to make an attempt to make a breach. On the other hand of it, there is a big revolution coming up, right? And pandemic, the current pandemic actually accelerated that revolution, which is called as the digital transformation, right? So most of the organizations around before Corona was all going out and exploring that how we can build in a digital transformation, and they were actually trying to run down the milestones, that how do we go about a digital transformation. But today, when we are looking, when we are in the middle of this pandemic, and we find it out that has accelerated in such a way that 1/3 of the top 10 incumbents have already displaced with the disruptions. Now, if you see, the impact of the digital disruption during this pandemic has been majorly done. And most of the corporations, most of the organizations, whether the organizations comes from media and entertainment, telecom, technology, retail, even the healthcare, right? So they are actually moving down to a high order of digitization, right? What does that mean? That means the digital transformation is bringing a high level of digital disruption where maybe the conventional security is not good enough to protect. So the whole idea about the digital transformation journey is bringing and evolving a new idea of building a new paradigm for cybersecurity, right? Now, it's all about not the only the organizations taking up a journey towards the digital transformation, right? But look at that. This digital transformation is not about one application, right? The idea is about that the digital transformation is transforming our way of living heavily. And it is not about one application, but this is actually triggering up a multiple APIs which are actually building up a higher API ecosystem. Now today, when we were looking up at an organization level, we were looking at an infrastructure and we were trying to build in the pillars. We were trying to look at that, okay, email is a one vector I need to protect. Web is another vector I need to protect. Endpoint is another product I need to protect. Data protection is another area that I need to do it. But equivalently of the infrastructure, there is another area, which is basically a digital transformed area where there are multiple APIs that are actually getting birth. And to be very honest, when I'm looking at the way we book our taxis, right? For example, we book our Uber. So it is not about booking up a taxi, but it's all about, having that API or having that application, another intermittent connection with the billing. They're having an intermittent connection with the GPS. They're having an intermittent connection about the customer profiling, CRMs, right? So this evolution of having one application is triggering out multiple APIs to basically building the convenience for the consumers, right? So similarly, look at that if you're ordering up your food, right? Today, it's not about that you're ordering up one application because that it carries up a lot of identification, the customer profiling, the location, the delivery contacts, the CRM, the supply chain, everything is connected, right? So all these connections intermittently are giving the birth for a highly flooded APIs, right? For example, healthcare, it's the same scenario. The way we shop, and today in this current pandemic, I hardly find, I think 80 to 90% of the people are triggering up multiple areas of shopping and giving birth of many APIs all around to facilitate those consumers. So the idea about today is about that these are not the application, but they are actually triggering a floods of APIs. And during this transformation, right, which we call as the smart transformation and digitally transformed journey, are we really ready to cope up with the challenges that are going to be there in the cybersecurity perspective? Next slide. And now this was not only what we see in the corporate world, but overall, if we look at the governments, right, today, the pandemic has also accelerated the government initiatives also towards the digitally. So I personally was thinking that the government may take it a bit of time to basically build a digital transformation journey, but this time pandemic again accelerated them because they started now talking about multiple citizen services, right, which we call as about the e-commerce or e-governance, the e-passports, e-sevas. So there are so many of electronic and digital form of services they are actually trying to provide to their citizens. And all of them are again powered and highly engineered by the floods of APIs. So in a way, when I'm looking at and I'm analyzing this, so I find it that we are now getting surrounded by the universe of APIs. We are all getting surrounded by the entire world of APIs around us. And definitely when it comes to be, when an API role is so important in my life that it is triggering up so much of multiple cases. And this is not the only the intermittent connection for those applications to commute. Now, for example, this actually leads a lot of data information between those APIs, right? Now, the question is that, are we really ready? And tomorrow, if we see the next generation is a broken API or a hijacked API, what are the outcomes? Next slide. So when I talked about the broken APIs or hacked APIs, so they only are not, they are actually becoming a bigger vector which actually expose the most sensitive information. So today, I'm the whole objective of my sense today that I'm trying to give it is all about that APIs are becoming an integral to provide a seamless connection to the world of the infrastructure that we are trying to protect. And on the other hand, when I said that email and web, I find the OWASP top 10 attacks are going to be the new emerging attack vector in the coming years, because now the cyber criminals will move their needle from a normal infrastructure point of view to basically get into hacking of APIs. They will try to see that which APIs are broken, and that gives another point. And also one of the most important points that I would like to bring it out here, because these APIs are not built in isolation, because these APIs are also modeled within the same infrastructure of the data center that we are operating upon. So that means it is making up a consumerization, it's making a conglomeration along with the conventional IT with the new application stacks. So the risks are eventually much bigger. Next slide, please. So in summary, what I wanted to talk about is that the API security fundamentally is one of the top areas that which all of the CISOs should actually think about it. So I'm trying to bring it trying to bring a thought onto the table where most of the people among us have to think about that, are we really ready to face the challenges that the API breaks can bring in up? Are we really ready to face the challenges of the cyber attacks which are actually launched via APIs? Are we really ready for the new top 10, top 20 OWASP threats? And as I said you that the entire world and the universe, we are getting surrounded by the world of APIs. It also means that now coming forward, we must see the more and more API abuses in our lives. And it is not the only the API from an conventionally from a perimeter or a cloud perspective, but I'm trying to basically think about this APIs are existing vertically and horizontally as well. So there is a lot of north, south, east, west of APIs also floating in, because everything is trying to get integrated seamlessly. So here is where, I'm putting up the thought partnership, right, with all of you, that today the need of the hour is almost to think about that, how do we create a new ecosystem which can help us to protect and which can help us to bring a more secure environment across the API landscape. And this was the most third vector that I would like to explore more, and I would like to basically bring it onto the table for Israel to give you a deep dive that how Seqrite and L7 Defense are collaborated together to bring in together a piece of solution that can solve the most important and compelling problem of today's modern era, which is an API era. So thank you. I leave you with this thought and allow Israel to basically take it further to do a deep dive on API security.
Thank you, Kuldeep. Thank you for that very crisp introduction and for setting up the context. Now, like I mentioned earlier, I wanted to make this webinar a very interactive session, and therefore I want to invite all attendees to participate in the first poll for this afternoon. Team, can you please serve the poll? Ladies and gentlemen, I request all of you to please give us your feedback. Your feedback is extremely critical for us. It helps us tailor-make our solutions, and it will also help us to sort of partner with you far more effectively and engage better. So please do participate in this poll and give us your feedback. Let's just give it a minute so everybody can read through and respond. Team, can we tabulate if the process is completed?
Vijay, a few more seconds.
Sure, no problem. Team, when you're ready, do flash the results on the dashboard, please, so everybody can see it. All right, thank you. Thank you so much. And I think what's very interesting to note is that decisions on API security are pretty much led both with the IT teams and the CISO teams, teams led by the CISO. I mean, while the CISO teams are sort of slightly ahead, it just puts into perspective that both teams play a role. That said, I want to now hand over to Israel to sort of carry forward with the most awaited part of the session. I think we've lost connectivity with Israel, so just give him a couple of minutes, please.
No, I'm here.
Oh, you're there?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sorry, Israel. I didn't see you on the screen, sorry. All right,
Great.
So Israel, over to you. Yours is the most awaited session for this afternoon. And like you saw, you saw some of the results there, which is very interesting. You see almost a 50-50. I mean, the CISO and security ops team is slightly ahead, but that should give you an interesting perspective of how things are panning out in India, and maybe share your perspective as well as to how you're seeing things panning out in the global arena, right?
Yeah, thanks. I will get to this point shortly. Thank you very much, Seqrite team, for hosting this great webinar. Thanks, Kuldeep, for the great starting of this webinar. So a lot of this knowledge, and thanks for all this explanation. And let me dive deeper inside the API security matters. And let's start. Next slide. So we talked about, Kuldeep explained of those trends in the market. I want to give more a high definition insight. So we talked about digital transformation. So this is, of course, started like maybe at least 5-7 years ago. It became the main normal. But think about the COVID-19 is making all of this process on steroids. Now, because no one leaves the house to go to the shop, the mall closed, and you don't want to go to see a doctor, everything is moving to online. So if till today you can have a store that has 80% people come to the store, 20% people buy online, now you're shifting more and more to the online. And this we see this a global trend where more and more of those APIs are being used. So we see companies who had a lot of digital transformation till today, the volume is increasing in big numbers of percentage. So this is one of the lately, I would say, focus today. Next one is about the IoT, IoT and IIoT. So as manufacturing and moving to industrial IoT and moving also to connected of IoTs, this means they will have to secure the system. They didn't think about till today. But now everything is becoming more smart. For example, smart grids that connect, to smart cars and connect to smart power grids. All of these are connected today through the internet, and we have those IoT devices are all here around. Thinking about, a smartwatch, a phone, everything is today's IoT, and it's going to increase. And the last one is about open banking. Open banking is something specific inside the bank's financial, but why is it here? Because since September last year, regulation is pushing very strongly that all the banks should share those APIs outside. And why is this for? This comes for actually us as consumers. We can have access to our data that was kept in the bank's records. So if I want to move from one bank to another bank, I have the possibility to ask the bank, give me all my data and share it to the other bank. They can give me a good offer. All of this is the regulation. It started very dramatically September last year in Europe. It's in the United States and other regions globally. We see this very spread this where everyone wants access to their own data of the banks. This is a big challenge for the banks today. Think about they have to start sharing lots of data they never open and share. And when they open and share, how do they actually secure it? So all of these things are the top concerns today in the API security world. Next slide. Now, and I have my presentation will be focused on giving the knowledge, what do we see as API security matters, what should we look at API security, and how we should secure it. So I will be focused on the next slide here is the things where we want to see the growth. We talked about the growth of the numbers of APIs, but those numbers of APIs, and we can define it soon, is that they're public APIs. So it means every big company like Salesforce, Facebook, Expedia, and everyone, they open the APIs to others. And this is the numbers of open APIs, where there's much, much more many closed APIs. We're going to talk about it. And some of the numbers here, we see that the web traffic that we used to call the web security is actually transformed to API security, because 83% of all the web traffic is actually APIs. This is a report by Akamai. So you see these numbers are shifting. So don't call any more web security, you should call API security. Think about a mobile device is 100% APIs. Every app that has connects with API outside. IoT, smart, everything today is APIs. And this means even if you have a website, the login in the website is a different API, and a page and a document, everyone's a different API. So don't look at it as web security, you have to look at it as API security. And what we see here is a challenging for organizations that they have average of 363 different APIs. Think about it. I need to manage security for this numbers of APIs. How do I actually bring all of this knowledge of those APIs? How do I do it automatically? All of these are the challenge. Next slide. I want to give here examples of API breach, that what happened there, that the data leaked out through the APIs. How does data leak out through the APIs? Because someone left an API hole where you can actually access data you're not supposed to. So looking at this, we have here 3 use cases. The postal service in the United States, where 60 million users' data was exposed. Facebook was 37 million data users were exposed to the APIs. And Vimo, as a sharing platform that you share your information on, it still someone was able to script all of those calls, 200 million records, and actually take it outside to himself. So what we see here is one use case of risk for APIs is where the data leaks out through those APIs. Next slide, please. This slide, I want to be focusing more about use cases interesting from the last month where we had in the news. So OkCupid is a very popular dating app where people go and find dates live. And what was able to have API access to other platforms, and through those APIs, there was ability to actually log into someone else's account. So if I have an account, I can open an account and then try to see someone else's account and see all the private communications with other people, all the data he shared, control on his account. Wow, what does this happen? This was a hole in the API that gives option to other people to access to other people's accounts. Meetup is a platform that I use personally to organize events. Actually had a hole in the API where you can actually access someone else at the means management. So in my group, in Meetup, I have more than 5,000 people in my community, and these people are my community. I organize events, and I pay for this subscription for this, and then now someone can actually access through the API and take control on my group, and dismiss me from the management, and see all my private information, and just take control of all of this my data. This is that's a risk that was found just in last month. In Uber, the last use case here, Uber, everyone knows Uber, ordering taxis, of course. So 2 years ago, the Uber, there was a breach there that hackers could actually access the private data of the drivers, or rate other drivers, or look at other privacy information that was not supposed to be exposed. And the use case there, that was a CISO was bargaining the hackers not to publish this breach. And lately this month, the judge in the United States called him, the CISO, to go to jail on this records. So this is what use cases of where you take control on other people's accounts through the API. So this is a second type of example after talking data leaking on the API. Next slide, please. Now it's time to understand what are the type of APIs you have in an organization. So we categorize them into 3 levels of APIs. Each one has its own risk. So public APIs, think about it as every API that is shared globally. So I can share it, everyone can connect to it. Or it can be, I share a platform, I share my web, I share my app, I share things that belong to the company. For example, a mobile bank app that I share this to people to log in. So this is public because everyone can access these things, okay? So you can download an app, you can see the API script, try to connect to it. Those are public APIs. Then you have partners APIs. Partners APIs are actually between two partners, between two businesses. For example, the finance, it would be between a bank and a fintech company, a bank and the stock exchange, a bank and other platform. These are not accessible to everyone. Only people that authorize from the third party are able to access to this API. And then there's internal APIs. Internal APIs is where the developers use. So developers use between containers and others. So where L7 Defense is focused on? L7 Defense is focused on securing what goes inside the organization and what goes outside the organization. You have to secure both ways. We don't secure internal organization processes. Whatever doesn't leave the organization, we don't secure. And this is because there's many other companies in the cloud security vendors or Docker security who can give this solution. We are focusing north-south, what comes in and out of the organization. Now, let's give some explanation. What's the difference in the risk between a public API to a partner's API? So a public API, because it's exposed outside, everyone can actually access it rather than it's a partner's APIs. So it's not documented usually, and changes will come there much more risky because no one has the ability to understand what are those changes. And this time we want to be more focused on where the risk is coming for. So Gartner predicts that the $600 billion damage will come through those APIs. And the attack surface, as Kudip mentioned, is growing from 40% to 90%. We'll see that when we see already today, globally, hackers are running on those APIs. They understand APIs as how the business creates money. They connect to more partners, they make more money. And this is where hackers go. Hackers grow where the money is. So this is why we see a very strong growth. Next slide. So usually typically question we hear from customers, okay, we have WAF. Is WAF enough? So the answer in WAF is not dedicated for the APIs. WAF is built more to secure static information that doesn't change all the time. Think about APIs are very dynamic. APIs we have customers that change their APIs 3 times a day. This means from a security aspect, in the old world of WAF, you have to take someone to do the pen test and those changes, validate them, write the new scripts, and create the rules, and test them, and then let it run for a month till it actually gets validated, and then it will be secured. But no, we have 3 of those a day. Every day there's numerous 3 of those. So there's also customers that have 1,300 updates a month. So we're talking about numbers that's impossible for existing WAF products. And that's why WAF as itself, to put a WAF and say, okay, I have a security, it's impossible because we see from this poll that that we see that 30% of organizations that don't have the ability to actually configure those WAF, and they're not able to actually communicate the WAF signatures to other places. This brings them to the major holes we see that the majority, almost 2/3 of the organizations say attacks pass the WAF, and also the false positive is very high because they're not able to learn on the spot changes. So the API is something the WAF is not built for that. Next slide, please. So maybe our API gateway will solve the API security matter. And let's talk about what's the API gateway. API gateway is today where you manage those access control, who can access the system. But API gateway, they know what you tell them. Whatever you don't tell them, they don't know. And also whatever they know is about who is able to access. No word about what's the content. And as you know, content is the king. So I can be a legitimate user because I opened a fake account and now I'm a legitimate user, I can do whatever I want. No, that's not correct. We have to inspect every transaction to see what's the content inside. Next slide. Here comes what L7 Defense does, and I will take this opportunity to present some of the technology advantages of L7 Defense. Next slide, please. L7 Defense is called Ammune system. Ammune, applicative immune. It's based on immune system models. Where my partner, the co-founder of the company, He invented this technology from his background as a PhD in bioinformatics and how the human body identifies new types of risk in real time and creates alerts. So these are the things that he was back from research, and we want to show you how we build this model in comparison between the human body and the immune system. So we actually took the same model, how the human body learns, and we adapted to the immune system, and then we start correlating and building real-time machine learning capabilities with unsupervised machine learning abilities. What does this mean? To learn the unknown. We're not looking for known patterns, because known patterns, that's everyone can do. How you can identify the risk in real time that you never knew before. That's a new change that brings a new risk to the organization. No one knows to identify the risk. This is a challenge we are facing, and this is what we present here. Next slide. So we try to simple this before we go to the deeper technology. What we say here is about the 3D value. 3D value means, first of all, discover, give you full visibility of all content shared. Any parameters, any endpoints, whoever is sharing data, you should have all of this information inside to get the ability to get the map of risk. And the first thing a CISO or someone who's the head of security would want to know, where is the risk, okay? We have lots of data, lots of APIs. Which of the APIs are more risky for the organization? Who can change data in my system? Who can expose data, personal data? This is the first thing. And then you can map the whole dynamic baseline of all information you have. Second would be detect. You want to check and see any changes that some of the developers did. Or it can be a developer did a change, develop a new API, a new connectivity, or it can be a new hack that came in, a request or a different response. It can be many of those areas. You have to inspect all of them. But not only in the manners of a script of an attack, okay? It's a XSS, because that will say it's more basic. You want to know what's a business logic. Someone is accessing his own data, not trying to access someone else's data. These are business logic that you cannot teach normal system. This system has to learn it by itself. You cannot teach the system every normal user behavior. The system has ability to understand what customers are trying to do, what is this portal trying to be, and to see if there is a match with what the person is trying to do and what is the portal trying to respond. To see this is a very AI capabilities for business logic. And then, of course, if we see any attempt for a data leakage, malicious attack coming in, to block, identify, risk, and all of this, and create those rules, of course, on the spot. And, of course, go back to discovery and adopt and adjust those APIs. Because if you know if it's normal, we should actually update the baseline. Next slide. I want to map here the 6 high risk of API that L7 faces, and just give it a little bit more a glimpse of information. The first thing we talked about, the mapping APIs, the private data sharing, and you want to have a risk scoring. You want to have APIs colored in the same, in a risky API colored and non-risk, because a lot of information goes on a static information that's not really risk for the organization. And it can make a lot of noise, okay? It can be a error there or a attack attempt, but it's not a risky point. So there's no such a risk for the organization. Rather, you want to see much be focused on those critical points for organization and give a heat map of there, what's the risk. The second point is the OS top 20 automated attacks. Those automated attacks are attacks where organizations have millions of bots. We find this all the time, that millions of bots can run and they can run and with those different IPs in months. It can take months and months where they want to do several things, or they wanted to use a database of username and password on the system and try to log into the system. They can actually map and build a blueprint of the whole map you have in an organization. This means they can know afterwards, like, of course, it happened for us, we found it for a bank, that they were able to script the entire website of the bank, where someone logged in, he saw it looks like a legitimate website. It had more than 1,000 pages inside. It looked exactly like the web page of the bank, because they took all this information, they scrapped it, built a new website from it. Next one is the most critical point, I would say, the top 10 API security. Top 10 API security is the validation of the content of those APIs, because most of those APIs, the critical APIs, they come out after multi-factor authentication. And this multi-factor authentication take out a lot of the noise, okay? A lot of the noise, from scripts are coming in, they're being blocked because they cannot log in, they're blocked. You have to get another text, you get a phone call, and it doesn't matter how multi-factor authentication works. But what we saw and what we see globally, for example, the Capital One attack, where someone through the API took the private keys to access the system. So these are things that you want to make inspection of the traffic that comes in. So if I'm a user, I want to make sure that the user is accessing the right thing he's supposed to access, the right data, not trying to go to that admin portal and try to do things that he's not allowed to. So you want to make sure the authorization, there's no authorization bypass of it. And this is by actually validating the data goes on those APIs. So this is probably everyone more familiar about the top 10 API security. I would say the most critical and sophisticated. Next one is about the fraud. Thinking about this abilities we found, for example, someone hacker uses a bot script that opens accounts in a bank, in mobile banks, and let's say, for example, ordering taxi, ordering food, or ordering hotel. He opens a fake account, and then he tries to, after he opens this fake account, he tries to do all kinds of things. For example, what we found out that we found out that people were using stolen credit card numbers to actually validate them on the system. So you log in, the system logs in like a opening account, opens account, and then it tries to validate the credit card. So it puts a stolen credit card, and then it gets a response. If the account opened, it means the credit card is valid, then they can go use it someplace else. So this is a bad scoring the company will get from the credit card issuance. So we see this as the fraud issues. We see it growing, those fraud, automated fraud today. So you have the usually fraud companies who identify specific, a person bought a specific thing, he's not in this country. It can be example, but if you're looking on automated fraud, this is one of the high risks today. Another point is about the classic OWASP top 10, SQL, XSS, we do them all, of course. And the last point here we have is about DDoS attack, the DDoS applicative DDoS attack. This means attacks that go on content, asymmetric request, the reply with big reply. This can make those servers go down. So all of these type of attacks in specific days and a month, we see them, many of those attacks happen exactly in the first day of the month, at the end of the month. They try to take down those facilities with very simple requests. The complex here is that you're not able to identify them in advance because they come under the radar. So these are the major high risk we see for organizations today. Next slide. So as I see, maybe maybe to take concern about the poll here we had in the beginning. So we had almost 50% claim it's the CISO in charge, and other people say it's the IT. What I found here interesting, you don't think that the developers who develop the APIs make it secure. This is something interesting, something maybe you can think, wow, who needs to secure those APIs is the developers who develop them. They have to do a secure development. But we all understand that that's not able, because they're working very fast. Developers are working very fast. They're not able to do a secure development and test their development all the time. Rather, we have CISO is supposed to be in charge. The CISO has no clue. CISO doesn't know those APIs exist. He doesn't know all the APIs between the partners, because sometimes API can be shown after 1 month and we see, wow, this API exists a long time and now it's sharing data. What happened? So CISO doesn't have this information to be in charge. So we want him to be in charge. He doesn't have the information. The IT department not always have ability to actually understand what is those risks going on those. So for them, connecting, is it good, is it bad? They don't have the risk ability. It's more about the functionality. So we see this, and some of those answers say the both. So what we have here is one print screen of L7 Defense show. We will be very happy to schedule a one-on-one session to show you how we actually simulate attacks on APIs, show you how we actually can stop these attacks in real time. Next slide, please. So L7 Defense is a world recognition for many years, working globally. We're working in the United States, Europe, in different segments from finance and telcos and others. We're getting awards for the best product. We just got received now for the best product and for the product award leadership in API security. This we just received in June 2020. Next slide. Some examples of customers we want to give here, examples of finance, telcos, governments, and we just try to give all kinds of examples of customers and cloud native companies. Next slide. So I want to thank you very much. I'm still staying here for questions. I'm here. I will be answering all your questions. Just thank you very much for Vijay and all the team, and I'm staying here. Yes.
Thank you for that exhilarating session, Israel. It was interesting. It was interesting to see how you've borrowed from the innate immune theory to build the immune model to help enterprises secure their API landscape. It's very interesting. I mean, I learned something this afternoon. So thank you so much for that session, Israel. Before we move to the concluding session for this afternoon, I want to invite all the attendees who've come together for this webinar to opt for the free risk assessment. So I just want to make a big call out that this would be a great value offering. The teams from Seqrite and L7 Defense would work in tandem to ensure they do a complete risk assessment and have a one-to-one conversation and pretty much do like a road mapping of sorts, for you. It'll be a great deep dive session, and it's also an opportunity for us for all of you to sort of tap into the potential and the talent at Seqrite as well as at L7 Defense, and they can actually bring to the table their understanding of this space. So I want to just hold on to the slide for a moment. Amit Deshmukh from the Seqrite team is the points person. You could write to him at amit.deshmukh@seqrite.com, or you could reach out to him on 9022934403. You could call him and he'll be happy to sort of put this into motion and address any other queries that you may have. I'm holding on to the slide again, just in case you want to note down that email ID and his telephone numbers. The name is Amit Deshmukh. All right, now let's just move to the last concluding session, right? Before I let you go, Israel, as you were actually speaking, I got two questions lobbed at me, and I thought it was very interesting. And it'll be a great segue into the Q&A session, right? So the first one is from Mr. Ramesh Powar, okay? His question is very simple, but it's a great, it'll be great if you can give your perspective, considering you got a pulse on the ground. He wants to know of your experiences of enterprise appetite for API security in the Indian market, and also give a global context. Essentially, what he wants to know is that the intent for enterprises to adopt API security. What are you seeing? What are some of the conversations you're having on ground?
Yeah, so the market now is pushing very forward, as from the researchers and from we can see this globally, where the demand now for API security is rising. It's interesting because we get queries for from the largest banks and telcos in the world, picking up the phone, can you give us API security? And comes out of nowhere. Wow, yeah, we could. But like, how did you find us? Okay, we were actively looking. We see actively looking, people looking. I can say we in Indian market, we started in last month some contacting people, and I think more than 150 people contact us for the API security matter to learn more and to schedule calls. So I can say it's a very hot topic now in India. Only from the last 3 months, I'm accessing this data, and it's a big demand in the market. So yeah, hopefully to serve you all, it's a big amount of numbers. So we are here with Seqrite to actually give you the best solutions.
Thank you for that. So did I hear you right, Israel? You said now 150 different organizations, and you're in various stages of conversation. Yeah. So
probably some of them are here. I didn't go in the name, but maybe they're here. Yeah.
No, but what I wanted to essentially get to is that the awareness and the appetite to adopt API security is on the rise, and you're in some of those conversations, which is nice to know. And I think it's good to relate back, to the offer, which is about the free risk assessment. It'll be like a good deep dive for most organizations. So that's great. I have a second one for you, Israel, before I deep dive into the ones that have already been popped up in the chat window. This question is from Mr. Sridhar Ramanathan. He wants to know what a typical installation will comprise of.
Okay, so I didn't mention here, but of course, L7 Defense is a software solution. So we almost have no barriers for installation. It can be installed locally on an on-prem, on a cloud, hybrid model. The ease of installation, a plug and play, that's what customers love about our product, okay? We're not looking for a big project for several months to integrate the system. We just need to configure a virtual machine, doesn't matter where it is, connect the traffic to it, download the 7 different image, and it's running. I can say typically installation in the same day we start, the same day we end, it's up and running. So what we do, the first hour we install the system, then we give it a few hours to validate, and we check, that everything is fine. We don't do anything. We don't configure. We don't do anything. We just, put our eyes on it, and then the same day it's up and running. And interesting point, the same day sometimes customers doing the red team test, and in the same day it brings the values already. So that's usually typically for a one day process, and it's up and running.
Thank you, Israel. Thank you for that clarification. So we have a couple of questions that have actually popped up on the chat window. I want to first request my team to unmute Mr. Manish Sharma. He has a question for you, Israel. So let's just hear Mr. Manish Sharma. Team, can you unmute Mr. Manish Sharma, please?
Hi, Israel. Hi, everyone. So my question is, how do you do it continuously in real time? So what I understand from an API perspective is that there will be providers who are feeding the data through APIs to certain applications, right? And sometimes these APIs will be homegrown within the application itself. How do you actually find out that there are some APIs inbuilt in the application and then continuously monitor it? That's the question I have.
Okay, this is a very good question. So the first thing what we give here for the customer is to map automatically all those APIs. So we see a request and we start to validate. Okay, this API, we know it, the parameters, we know it's one-on-one we see before. If yes, we start to validate in one perspective. If we didn't see it before, we see any change. It could be a change also in the parameter, in the endpoint. It can be many changes. Then we start validating it and learning. Is it good? Is it bad? And then if it's good, we just update the schema again. We just update the API map with all the functionality, including SLA and others. If it's not, then we take action. We try to understand what was the attempt and start to go in forensics. Is this like trying to access a system, unauthorized? And then we can take the action from that side to take it to the developers team and say, okay, we blocked it now, but there's a hole here. You should look at it. So the ability to learn all the time, and any request that comes in helps us build and make it much more efficient. So the system constantly learns per request. It learns and adjusts the system of the API mapping. So that's automatically, yeah.
Thank you, Israel. Manish, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, but I'm just trying to understand. Applications have APIs inbuilt. How do you actually figure out that there are certain number of APIs that are inside the application? And then monitor it? That I understand you can monitor it and you can find out that there are bugs in the APIs or there are some security problems in the API itself. But how do you actually find out that there are hundreds of APIs in an application, and how do you figure that out? That's the question I had.
Yeah, so for example, I give you an example from customers. So we install this in a large telco. So they have, they can have up to 10,000 of those APIs, okay? Right. So how do we know 10,000 APIs? No, we just see, whenever we see traffic, we create the API for it. If it was not existing before, so it won't appear. But if we see any traffic goes on it, we start to put it in the tree, which branch is it? Is it going to there? Was it new, never seen before? And then start categorizing all of them. So the ability to learn, this saves, and you're saying a point that's very painful for organizations, because to secure the APIs, you need to know all the APIs. That's the first thing. How do I can map all the APIs? How do I know which APIs I have? Maybe there's some of them I missed, okay? The ability to actually map all those APIs, this gives you the visibility that you're missing. So what you're looking for, that we do automatically. We just need to see traffic, connection, request, response, that's it. We can start identifying it as a new bad, create the rules for it automatically.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Israel. Manish, you may want to, just a suggestion, you may want to opt for the risk assessment, so maybe they can do a deep dive. We'll leave that decision to you, but we'd love to hear from you, Manish. I have another question, and this is for Kuldeep. So team, can you unmute Mr. Prince Matthews? He has a question for Kuldeep. Kuldeep, you're on mute.
Yeah, please.
Mr. Prince Matthews?
Hi, Kuldeep. This is Prince Matthews from Park Technologies in Australia.
Hey, hi.
Hi, I'm very happy to, have this wonderful conversation, wonderful presentation from Israel. It was extremely, interesting and like, you know, uh, uh, encouraging, and it's also very educative. Now, my question to you is, QKIL as a company, with the kind of products you have, let's say like we are probably, I don't know whether you know me, like we are the distributors, like, you know, for QKIL products in Australia. And which product, like, are you going to come out with a different product, or are you going to integrate these solutions in the existing products?
Yeah, so actually, if you see, this is there is no integration as on date, and this
Mm,
is a separate area, because what I was talking about, when you are dealing with the Seqrite products, you have endpoint security, you have DLP, you have encryption, you have mobility, right? So those are the products which are actually leading and solving the problems which are infrastructure security based, right? And now Seqrite has, collaborated with Layer 7. And,
mm-hmm,
the reason was to bring in this technology so that we can address the
mm,
application security area, right? And this was the right time for us to understand it, because most of the people, when there are a lot of people which basically are basically right now operating at the network and the operating system security level, but now we were the first one to move the needle to the application level, right? That is how we identified and we collaborated, and that is how we bring in the value to the customers by giving a universe of products to solve the
okay, so
infrastructure as well as
basically it is
application.
going to be sorry to interrupt, Kuldeep.
Yeah.
Basically, it is going to be incorporated into the current product line you are offering, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you. You answered my question.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews.
Yeah.
Um, I have another question, Israel. This is for you. This is from Mr. Sam. The question is a solution a replacement or a complementary solution to WAF?
Okay, this is a good question. I could say we are a replacement for WAF, but a lot of organizations have WAF embedded as part of the IT. This means a WAF will serve them a lot of things for the organization rather than security, as more a network connectivity, we'll say load balancing, as a set of loading, things they want to keep. The pain point in the WAF, and we didn't speak about this, the TCO. The WAF is it takes a lot of resources of people. You have to put people next to this WAF to actually configure it. So we see a lot of customers can start putting this on the side of the web application firewall, where we will create those rules and configure those rules into the existing WAF. So this can save a lot of those time and efforts, and also building trust that you see, first of all, what we do from the side, we create only rules, and then we afterwards, and the customer is usually satisfied after several months, half a year, you will replace the existing WAF with some defense. Some use cases where the customer is looking to replace the WAF, then we can offer a new WAF with API capabilities. So this is like the major part is the APIs, but we have also the WAF IT network product availability. Yeah.
Thank you, Israel. I have a question from Ms. Shraddha. Team, can you unmute Ms. Shraddha, please, so she can go ahead and ask the question? Shraddha Rao.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Yeah. Hi, team. This is very wonderful presentation today. So actually, I have one query. Actually, we are having a requirement. Our customer is having a requirement on the basis of application level DLP, application level security. Actually, the requirement is like that he wants to monitor all the external traffic. He is using the one FTP application to upload the files and download it. So he just need to monitor some suspicious activity or anything will happen if the sharing is going on, because it is totally global level, and it has span more number of employees he is working with. So I just want to understand what L7 defense will provide the security for this.
Yeah. So if I get the question, it would be about so if I got the question correct, so you talk about how we can actually secure those applications that are globally connected by other, specifically from employees or partners that
Yeah.
they connect to these employees. So
Yeah.
think about like, for example, we have a platforms where people can connect to, and they do the it's a similar for Salesforce, okay? So you have people connecting it globally, and you want to make sure the right people get access the right
Yeah,
data.
actually, he is using the FTP application through web browser only. He doesn't any application, but he is using through web browser. So he just want to understand on that.
Yeah, so this is actually what we can provide here to give it more security in depth. What we have the ability to learn in real time, those the risks. So I see some of those risks are a risk about the users. So it's about understanding the user itself to get the knowledge of what the normal users what is trying to do.
Yeah.
And the risk, so this is one risk. So of course you have some of those capabilities today in API management that you want to manage who can access, when can access, and all of those matters. But we will come in afterwards with the ability to identify what is the normal user trying to do. We saw it, for example, in the use case I tried to mention before. He tried to log in and take out all the data because he was leaving the company or other reasons. So this was we were able to actually identify this as one of the risks that we stopped it on the spot and alert and blocked and everything we do. And the ability here to understand legitimate users' behaviors. I would say this is the most challenging, and we usually try to identify it, in a more demo, because to explain how you exactly do what's a normal behavior, how normal behavior does, and how you break it, we have to explain it more in detail. So we usually do a one-on-one session where we present this use case. And then we explain how else somebody can detect these type of risks in real time.
Yeah, actually, we are working with the Seqrite team only. So they only suggested about L7 defense, and we are trying to understand, give the understanding to the customer. So I just want to ask one more question, that we can also get the report, total report, who is accessing and when is accessing, right?
Yeah.
Which user is accessing file and downloading which file, again uploading which file. We are getting in detail report.
Yeah, so there's several things. So the system mainly contains the risk alerts, but all the data can be saved by yours, because we try to be more focused. What I tell you, what the main idea here behind it is, the answer is that L7 defense, we try to be the most secured solution also for ourselves. So the system itself doesn't save a private data. So even though it's installed locally, nothing goes out of the organization, nothing comes to my organization. But still, the system itself doesn't save no data in it. So you open it, you only see statistics inside. So this brings us to a very high secured product. If you want us to save the logs and save the data, we will share it outside. So we will send it to your database, but we won't keep it in our system.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you, Shraddha. Thank you for that question. I've got one more, Israel. So this question is from Mr. Vinay. So team, can you unmute Mr. Vinay Rai Magia so that he can raise his query? Mr. Vinay, over to you. Mr. Vinay?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So I was just asking, I have a query with reference to this product. Is it a replacement to a WAF, or it would be a product which will be helping us to have a API security testing and inventory measurement of all the APIs? So that was a query.
Yeah, so I answered before, and that's also for you also, because this is a very good question. We actually, if a customer is looking to replace the existing WAF, so we can replace the existing WAF. Sometimes customers don't want to touch the WAF yet. They want to close the gap, but putting a solution inside, bringing automation to his existing WAF. So that's also a possibility. It depends. We have full integrations to WAFs of F5 and others. So for example, we have a very nice integration. That means also within the F5, we can embed it inside in two ways, inline and as a tab. We have all of these possibilities for integration into existing WAF if you don't want to replace a WAF. But if you want to replace a WAF, of course, we'd be happy to replace a WAF.
Okay. So with respect to the API security testing, will this product help us?
API security testing. Yeah. So what we use here, this system, of course, validates all the usage of the API. So if you put this in the testing, for example, you embed this in testing and you start to doing the red team on it, or using also defense automated tools, to actually validate it, to generate simulation of attacks. It will give you visibility also before installation of the in production. I mean. So you can have this in testing, and then you can move it actually to production. So this will help you also in the API security testing. And we also have ongoing testing inside built in the product. You can actually use this to test the system all the time.
So, and you are using a homegrown threat intelligence in your environment, which will be catering this API security testing?
Say again?
So, in this particular product, you have been using a threat intelligence which has been developed by you guys and it will be maintained by you guys? Threat intel?
Yeah. Yeah, so we have okay, so threat intelligence. So what's interesting here is, if you see, I didn't mention the whole presentation, I didn't mention signatures, because we don't build on signatures. The system doesn't have a signatures. When you open a WAF today, you will find signatures from the iPhone #1. That's how old those signatures are, and that's how non-relevant they are mostly. You want to have dedicated rules to your system, so the system works on securing your environment rather than working on intelligence. Because if I take a specific, let's say, malicious request that hacked a bank in Indonesia, yeah, the 99.999% it won't hack any other bank, because the Bank of India was built in this way that this request can hack them. It's impossible to do the same process. This means, from our perspective, every request is a zero-day attack. So we look at every attack that can be a new attack, and we don't care if it's known attack or non-known attack. We see any request that's malicious, we look at it as a zero-day attack. That's why we don't need to rely on intelligence of signatures. We don't give you many signatures and say, okay, try to process this million signatures and to identify if this is similar. Because of course, signatures, you change one small thing, it's a new signature, that's it. So the ability to work on intelligence, I'd say, is the old world, but it's not built for the APIs. APIs are not standard. APIs, we see APIs, they build them by their own needs. Therefore, we're not working on intelligence, we create intelligence. So people use our intelligence to other places, to export intelligence from our places to other companies, and others. So this is the idea about the difference between us and others.
Okay. And the last query with respect to this, will this product also help in the new architecture which works in microservices, Dockers? Will this help in that direction also?
Yeah, so maybe ask the team from Seqrite. We can show you a specific architecture, how we work with all of the new teams, the new architecture of Dockers and microservices. So yeah, so maybe ping them here in the chat, and they will schedule you a architecture session. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you, Vinay. Moving to the next question, Israel. So team, can you unmute Mr. Devrata Rane? Mr. Rane? Team, can you unmute Mr. Rane, please?
Joe, he's on self-mute.
Okay, so let me just read it out then. So as you said, InfoSec teams might not know all the APIs that are out in production, since they will be in huge numbers. So that begs the question, does an API security solution have an ability to discover APIs for an organization?
Yeah, so this is a very good question. And it's addressed not only in this session, we get this requirements. Today we get a requirement from, for example, banks. They tell us, the first thing, how do you do discovery of all those APIs and changes in APIs? So first of all, how you do discovery. This, I would say, is the first thing we get queries from customers. And as we said before and also in the session, we actually map them automatically. This is one of the abilities, to map the APIs all the APIs, any request and response that goes out to the inside and out to the organization, we map it. We learn it. We learn that from the SLA, to the parameters, and learn everything. And then we create a dynamic baseline of all those APIs. All this is in order to actually build the scoring map above it. The scoring map would mean what is the risk for any API. It can be a new API with a very low risk, no information on it. And it could be a slightly change in a very risky API that can cause big damage. So the first thing is to map. That's the basic grant you have to give in automatically. We're not the API management tool that you tell us which APIs you want to share. No, we discover any request response, we start to put it into the schema to understand we have it, we don't have it. We have exactly, and then if yes, it's good. If not, we still try to evaluate and validate it. So this is one of the best-selling product we have here, is that because it's able to learn all this automatically.
Thank you, Israel. Thanks for
Great,
the
thanks.
We have one question from Mr. Nagesh Lad. Team, can you unmute Mr. Nagesh Lad, please, so that he can go ahead with his question?
Joe, he's not in the session. He's left the session.
Okay, the question is, I'll read it out. How will the solution help in microservices application configuration?
Well, this is another good question. We have I think between 10 to 12 different architecture planning for this, from a single server to scaling up. So we didn't talk too much here, but we can also scaling up. This is very important today because the customers want to have ability that today they have this, tomorrow they'll have much more customers, much more traffic. They want to make sure that all of this is also secured and now no need to change the architecture. So this plan of growing and scaling with microservices, this is one of the ability we built from the day one, because we know the customers are always going to evolve, they're always going to change and grow the business. Hopefully everyone grows the business. And this brings us the ability to dedicated architecture for that. So this is one, and maybe we should ping him afterwards, do a session of architecture session where we can actually elaborate on this use cases, how we actually can give the value for you or for your customer.
All right, thank you for that. There's one more from, but this is a general question from Mr. Duen. I'll address this. Mr. Duen, you asked for the presentation. Yes, everybody will get an email notification and you can view this entire webinar on demand. So it's going to come your way shortly. That's all now on the chat window. I want to just pause for a minute and just check with the audience. If anybody wants to raise a query, please raise your hands and we will unmute you. Anybody has a question, please feel free.
I have a question for
Go ahead.
Israel.
Yes.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, clear.
Israel, thank you again, for giving us such a wonderful, presentation and giving a lot of information. I just want to ask you one question. Most of your feedback you get from your customers, right? In terms of addressing this, the issues, or addressing threats which is coming through. Is it coming from the customer side, or do you have another mechanism to figure out what kind of threats are coming through?
Okay, so this system is a good question, Prince. This question is a good question. The system is actively planning the risk for the organization. So if the customer doesn't, he's not yet a customer of Elsom Defense, hopefully he's going to be in this year. He's not a customer yet, so for him, he has a knowledge, because everyone's talking about the API security risk, so he needs to identify, and that's why we give here a free risk evaluation. But the ability to understand what's the risk for your organization. After it's already installed, the system learns on demand all the risk that comes to you and starts to categorize it for a very simple way to understanding what type of attacks we see. And automatically reports, design reports come automatically from the system and give very clarity for the management also, for as a CISO who can take this to the board and see, okay, this is a report, came out automatically. These are the type of risk we see now in organizations. This is the type of attacks we see that are blocked already. And that's much more easier to show because we see this all the time and we categorize and we build those automatic reports. Before installing LSM defense, we have to do some evaluation if you want to see what's the risk. But it's not always which APIs you have exactly to know what are the risks on all of those APIs. As I said, also we found some customers that API just woke up after a few months. Wow, ooh, nice to meet you. And so API was here all the time and shares data. And just 2 months it was quiet, but no one knows it's actually existing. So the ability, what's the risk for this API? So all of this ability, before installing LSM defense, you have to do some risk assessments and to identify what is the risk for your organization, what's the top risk, because every organization has its own risk. We see different type of risk. For example, it can be a risk of reputation. It can be risk of exposing data that you can be sued for. It can be a risk that someone's going to take control of your system or manipulate the data. It can be different types of risks. So you want to make sure what the risk, we categorize it when we see it in the system, but before you want to evaluate all of these type of risks before, because sometimes it will help you and your organization to understand the risk map for you to be involved and of course informed of.
Okay. And now I have one more question. Like now, as a team, we have so many participants in this forum. And I think we are all working as a team to get a solution. Now, my question is going back to the feedback you get from your current customer base or perceived customer base. What about outside the customer base? There could be because you may have a limited customer base at this point of time. How do you make sure you have solution to address, not from the feedback you get from the current customer base? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you down. Or
it's a good question. It's a good question. I will answer. It's a good question. No, there's no bad question. There's no bad question.
And what I'm saying is, we as a team will have to, when we take this product forward, we as a team, because I've been involved with QKIL for the last 10 years, we as a team, if we have to take this forward, we all have to communicate openly. So how do you from your current database or the current customer base, there could be so many things happening outside the customer base. How do you ensure that not from your current customer base, from the outside customer base, the perceived threats or the potential threats, you have the ability or the systems in place to address that?
Good question. It's a very good question, Prince. So let me give you one example. We have many of them. LSM Defense is part of the FDX, the Financial Data Exchange, for the top 20 banks in the United States. Think about the largest banks almost in the world. We are part of this forum, and we are sitting in the board seat and giving the knowledge about API security, learning the demand from them. So in this forum, there's more than 200 financial industry companies, okay? And they're all sharing data. So it's a very close forum. We also need to participate, and we learn all the time, observe the demands from the largest banks, from the largest financial institutions in the United States to actually learn what's their risk, what are they facing on, and all they share the data over there. And that's how we say, of course, we take them and we help them categorize the risk and understanding how to solve those risks. So we constantly learn. We sit in these forums globally to understand what is the risk and to learn all the time from the best people, from the biggest companies in the world. Not everyone is our clients. Of course, we don't have that amount of spread all over the world. We are looking to more so to expand also in India. But the ability to sit down and share in these places, to get the access to the right people, the person who's in charge of all the APIs for the largest banks, and these are the people we sit in the forum and we sit and learn all the time. What are their requirements? What are the challenges? How they want to solve it? and we give our inputs over there. So I think this can give you one example how we learn all the time, how we get the knowledge all the time, because the knowledge is unlimited. And we have to be part of all of these big forums and more. And this is one use case, and we have many of those use cases where we get the knowledge and we share our data and we learn constantly. We need to make sure that our product is suited for exactly what's demand for that on the market. The market has the demands. We want to make sure that we face the new threats, the new platforms, the new architectures, all of this. This is what we do, and we try to be the best for us and always learning. So this is a very good question, and we always try to be better.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mr. Israel. Yes.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thank you, Prince. So Israel and Kuldeep, I think we've come to the end of the Q&A session, right? But before we conclude, can I request all of you to give us feedback, and team, can I request you to serve the last poll for this afternoon, so that we take their inputs. Ladies and gentlemen, please give us your inputs. Let's just give everybody a minute or so to sort of fill in this form. Team, if the process is done, can we tabulate it and flash the results?
A few more seconds, Vijay.
Sure.
Filling up.
Sure. Can we have the results, team? All right. Thank you so much for the inputs. And we're going to take this into consideration, and then we're going to come back to you and work alongside you to sort of ensure that you're able to secure your respective API landscape. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your participation. Appreciate all of you taking the time off to attend this webinar. That brings us to the end of this session of Cyber Talk, which is a thought leadership initiative from Seqrite. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions or any issues related to support, please feel free to email us at marketing@seqrite.com, and we'll be happy to help you. Thank you, and have a great evening ahead.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Kuldeep. Thank you, Israel.
Thanks, Vijay. Thanks, Kuldeep.